before we start the show, I saw this cartoon. And I think this kind of sums up what our show is about here. Like all those people over on the left, they're following the narrative and they're going to yell at you. You're a terrible person for not changing your Twitter handle to the Ukrainian flag. You are a terrible person for questioning what your government tells you. And then we are over here trying to analyze the facts.
I think that cartoon should have everyone over there like in masks and full on body gear and all of that kind of thing.
Agreed.
And everyone should be wearing a Ukrainian flag pin.
Although, I will say this. I was thinking about this morning because Jon Stewart is trending on Twitter. Because on Twitter, they're starting to call him a bleeding heart liberal that refuses to accept the answers given from the main narrative. And I've kind of found this hopeful because Jon Stewart has been, for instance, the piece he did on Stephen Colbert, what he says, absolutely, COVID is a man-made disease.
Right.
These answers don't make sense. The things they're telling us to do don't make sense. And Colbert was like, oh, come on. Yes, they do. We get vaccinated. Wear the mask. And he was like, no, right? And so Jon Stewart is not someone you're ever going to put in a bucket with, say, Alex Jones or someone you can kind of like,
He's
maybe
like the
they
bridge.
make sense, but yes, right? And so the way that he's trending right now, it's like liberals and woke people who want to take away your rights, basically, they want to come at him, but they don't know how. Because what is his major platform right now is veterans benefits, right? Specifically 9/11 first responders who have nothing given to them in terms of like survivability and for any pre-existing condition that has been an effect of their heroism on 9/11. Congress has not really supported them. And he continues to try and get them health care and pensions and money and resources. And that is not a cause that either side can attack him for. So when he says something like the mainstream media narrative is not making sense, no one knows how to. The right already knows how to go after Jon Stewart, right? But they can't go after him for this cause. The left doesn't know what to do with this. And I find it so interesting. It's a great way that you just put it, is that he is a bridge.
Because, well, the reason I put that in the newsletter this morning, the Jon Stewart commentary, is because we're not even really talking about that in the show, but hey, F it. It's our show. It's hump day. Let's hump it. So Jon Stewart yesterday, he's on the Capitol Hill outside of this hearing, and he's basically taking all these senators to task. He's yelling at Republicans, but he's really also calling attention to Democrats. Like he's right there calling BS,
Yes.
and he has a platform for it, right? He's right there he has a platform for it. By the way, I'm just pulling it up here because if you missed it, I want to show this speech. I thought it was a great speech, and he's basically calling out Democrats, Republicans, but mostly Republicans for having an opportunity to take care of veterans. That you are totally fine to funnel billions of dollars to the military-industrial complex that poisons our soldiers. Mm-hmm. So our brave men and women who then go and fight these wars that these politicians dream up and to further the military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex and these large companies end up basically poisoning our soldiers. And you are doing nothing about it, you spineless pieces of garbage. And here's what Jon Stewart had to say about it. I love this.
So this is sort of simple. I mean, you see the entire veterans community standing together, united as one, to get this done. And it's going to come down to what it always comes down to here. We need 10 Republicans. That's it. After 20 years of fighting, this is what it comes down to. 10 Republicans. We get that, and the veterans finally get the health care and the benefits that they fought so hard for, that they earned, that they're sick and dying for. We wanted Kate Hendricks to be here today. She came and testified just 3-4 weeks ago, but she can't be here today because she's in hospice. That's what this is about. We can't wait any longer. This delay is unconscionable. And you're going to have a hearing today, and you're going to hear a lot of nonsense about, is this responsible? They're all going to say the same thing. We want to do it. We want to support the veterans, but we want to do it the right way. We want to be responsible. You know what would have been nice? If they had been responsible 20 years ago and hadn't spent trillions of dollars on overseas adventures. If they had been responsible and hadn't spent billions of dollars for defense contractors to poison our own troops, if they had been responsible and understood that 20 years of war was going to create an overflow and an influx of sick veterans paying the consequences of those wars, they had their chance to be responsible, and they blew it.
Now, by the way, so that was the end of it, but notice who's behind him is Chuck Schumer, of course, right? And I couldn't help but thinking, right, like...
And Kristen Gillibrand.
Yeah, Kirsten Gillibrand. But all of these, you know, it doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, they all support the military-industrial complex. So when he's standing there as this bridge, he's calling out the military-industrial. If they hadn't spent billions of dollars for defense contractors to poison our own troops, they had a chance to be responsible, and they blew it.
Well, he did a whole segment on this on his show, and what it's regarding, and I don't know if you mentioned it, are the burn pits. People don't really talk about the burn pits, and that's where all the garbage and stuff goes that they have over there from the military bases. And they don't do anything to dispose of it properly. They burn it, and they're burning toxic, like paint cans and just all these toxic things. And they have these guys out there shoveling it and moving it around, and it's breathing in this very harmful chemicals. And even if you're just on the base and you happen to smell it, it's very harmful. And that's the whole... so that's his new thing, is going after or going to help those people and to get them health care.
Right. And so he goes on to say later in this video, you can't say America first if your veterans last. Right. That does not work. So we talked about yesterday how the Biden administration wants to tax you more. Right. But what do they want to do with that tax money? It might be one thing if we didn't have someone out there saying, yes, they'll take your tax money, but they will not actually give it to anyone who is sacrificing their life for your country.
Ukrainians.
Right. They'll give it to Ukraine. Right. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So anyway, I'm so glad for this archetype because he is a bit of a unicorn right now on social media, that he's not a woke left and he's not a conservative right.
What to do?
It's just someone we don't know what to do with. Someone in the chat was like, he's going to get canceled.
I was just about to say, he'll get canceled just like Russell Brand got canceled. They'll try to cancel him just like they try to cancel Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard's
I don't think you can cancel Stewart.
Right, that's the thing. He's too sticky, right? People listen when he talks, and they're like, "That does actually."
Do you remember?
Yeah, he was one of the left heroes.
He was the guy at the left who went on Crossfire. He was invited on when Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson hosted Crossfire on CNN back in the day. And
that's a famous video on YouTube still.
Yeah, and he ripped them apart.
That's one of my favorites.
He ripped them apart, saying, "You guys are hurting America. Like you're hurting." And then CNN canceled Crossfire shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Because of that segment, largely because it was like CNN was like, yeah, what are we doing with this garbage?
Well, I'm glad we went on this aside because it's interesting to talk about what the government refuses to spend money on, which just seems so stinking simple, right? I want to sort of put a pin in that and remind you that when PPP package and coronavirus relief packages were passed through Congress relatively easily, that sort of endowments were given to all sorts of wealthy hotels. Government money was given to hotels, which were not hurting. Government money was given to the Kennedy Center, which is an art center, which was not hurting, right? And now we have to look at these people standing next to Jon Stewart who are hurting, who we refuse to give money to. Meanwhile, as this war seems to draw out between Ukraine and Russia, the government is willing to give more money freely in terms of weapons, in terms of bullets, guns, resources for soldiers, basically everything. The United States has barely said no to anything that Ukraine has requested. So it's interesting to sort of put these together, right?
Yeah, well, and it's like whatever makes the lobbyists money, that's what they do. Because throwing money away to these veterans and to the American people for health care and stimulus during the pandemic, that's just throwing money away. They have to look at ways they can invest to make money back for the donors.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's not really lobbyist money behind veterans benefits.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.